Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 239th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the old hag fell to visiting daily Naama's house, and frequenting his slave wife Naomi, and both ceased not to honor her. And she used to go into them morning and evening, and all in the house respected her, till one day, being alone with Naomi, she said to her, O my lady, by Allah, when I go to the holy places, I will pray for thee, and I only wish thou wert with me, that thou mightest look on the elders of the faith, who resort thither, and they should pray for thee according to thy desire. Naomi cried, I conjure thee, by Allah, take me with thee. Then she replied, Ask leave of thy mother-in-law, and I will take thee. So Naomi said to her husband's mother, O my lady, ask my master to let me go forth, me and thee, one day with this old mother, to pray and worship with the fakirs in the holy places. Now when Naamah came in and sat down, the old woman went up to him, and would have kissed his hand, but he forbade her. So she invoked blessings on him, and left the house. Next day she came again in the absence of Naamah, and she addressed Naomi, and saying, We prayed for thee yesterday, but arise now, and divert thyself, and return ere thy lord come home. So Naomi said to her mother-in-law, I beseech thee, for Allah's sake, give me leave to go with this pious woman, that I might sight the saints of Allah in the holy places, and return speedily ere my lord come back. Quoth Naamah's mother, I fear lest thy lord know. She said, But by Allah, I will not let her take seat on the floor. No, she shall look standing on her feet, and not tarry. So she took the damsel by guile, and carrying her to Al-Hajjaj's palace, told her of her coming, after placing her in a lonely chamber. Whereupon he went in to her, and looking upon her, saw her to be the loveliest of the people of the day. Never had he beheld her like. Now when Naomi caught sight of him, she veiled her face from him, but he left her not till he had called his chamberlain, whom he commanded to take 50 horsemen, and he bade him mount the damsel on a swift dromedary, and bear her to Damascus, and there deliver her to the commander of the faithful, Abd al-Malik bin Marwan. Moreover, he gave him a letter for the caliph, saying, Bear him this letter, and bring me his answer, and hasten thy return to me. So the chamberlain, without losing time, took the damsel, and she, tearful for separation from her lord, and setting out with her on a dromedary, gave not over journeying till he reached Damascus. There he sought audience of the commander of the faithful, and when it was granted, the chamberlain delivered the damsel, and reported the circumstance. The caliph appointed her a separate apartment, and gave into his harem, said to his wife, Al-Jajij hath brought me a slave girl of the daughters of the king of Kufa, and 10,000 dinars, and hath sent me this letter. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 240th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the caliph acquainted his wife with the story of the slave girl, she said to him, Allah increase to thee his favor. Then the caliph's sister went into the supposed slave girl, and when she saw her, she said, By Allah, not unlucky is the man who hath thee in his house, were thee cost 100,000 dinars. And Naomi replied, O fair of face, what king's palace is this, and what is this city? She answered, This is the city of Damascus, and this is the palace of my brother, the commander of the faithful, Abd al-Malik bin Marwan. Then she responded, Didst thou not know all this? Naomi said, By Allah, O my lady, I had no knowledge of it. When the other asked, And he who sold thee and took thy price, did he not tell thee that the caliph had bought thee? Now when Naomi heard these words, she shed tears, and said to herself, Verily I have been tricked, and the trick hath succeeded. Added to herself, If I speak, none will credit me. So I will hold my peace, and take patience, for I know that the relief of Allah is near. Then she bent her head for shame, and indeed her cheeks were tanned by the journey and the sun. So the caliph's sister left her that day, and returned to her on the morrow with clothes and necklace of jewels, and dressed her. After which the caliph came into her, and sat down by her side. And his sister said to him, Look on this handmaid, in whom Allah hath conjoined every perfection of beauty and loveliness. So he said to Naomi, "Draw back the veil from thy face." But she would not unveil, and he beheld not her face. However, he saw her wrists, and love of her endured and entered into his heart. And he said to his sister, "I will not go in unto her for 3 days, till she be cheered by thy converse." Then he arose and left her. But Naomi ceased not to brood over her case, and sigh from her separation from her master Nehemiah, till she fell sick of a fever during the night, and ate not nor drank, and her favor faded, and her charms were changed. They told the caliph of this, and her condition grieved him. So he visited her with the physicians and men of skill, but none could come at a cure for her. This is how it fared with her. But as regards Nehemiah went in, and he returned home, and he sat down on his bed and cried, "Ho, Naomi!" But she answered not. So he rose in haste and called out, yet none came to him, as all the women in the house had hidden themselves for fear of him. Then he went out to his mother, whom he found sitting with her cheek on her hand, and said to her, "O my mother, where is Naomi?" She answered, "O my son, she is with one who is worthier than I to be trusted with her, namely the devout old woman, and she went forth with her to visit devotionally the fakirs and return." Quoth Nehemiah, "Since when hath this been her habit, and at what hour went she forth?" Quoth his mother, "She went out early this morning." "And how camest thou to give her leave for this?" And she answered, "O my son, 'twas she persuaded me. There is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great," exclaimed Nehemiah, going forth from his home in a state of distraction. He repaired to the captain of the watch, to whom he said, "Dost thou play tricks upon me, and steal my slave girl away from my house?" "I will assuredly complain to thee to the commander of the faithful," said the chief of the police. "Who hath taken her?" And Nehemiah replied, "An old woman of such and such a mien, clad in woolen raiment, and carrying a rosary of beads numbered by thousands." Rejoined the other, "Find me the old woman, and I will get thee back the slave girl." "And who knows the old woman?" retorted Nehemiah. "And who knows the hidden things save Allah? May he be extolled and exalted." Cried the chief, "Who knew her for al-Hajjaj's procuress?" Cried Nehemiah, "I look to thee for my slave girl, and al-Hajjaj shall judge between thee and me." And the master of the police answered, "Go to whom thou wilt." So Nehemiah went to the palace of al-Hajjaj, for his father was one of his chief men of Kufa. And when he arrived there, the chamberlain went into the governor and told him the case, whereupon al-Hajjaj said, "Hither with him." And when he stood before him, inquired, "What be thy business?" Said Nehemiah, "Such and such things have befallen me." And the governor said, "Bring me the chief of police, and we will command him to seek for the old woman." Now he knew that the chief of police was acquainted with her. So when he came to said to him, "I wish to thee to make search for the slave girl of Nehemiah, son of al-Rabi'a." And he answered, "None knoweth the hidden things save Almighty Allah." Rejoined al-Hajjaj, "There is no help for it, but thou sendest out horsemen, and look for the damsel in all the roads, and seek for her in the towns." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 241st night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that al-Hajjaj said to the captain of the watch, There is no help for it but that we send out horsemen, and look for the damsel on all the roads, and seek for her in the towns." Then he turned to Nehemiah and said to him, "And thy slave girl returned not? I will give thee 10 slave girls from my house, and 10 from that of the chief of the police." And he again bade the captain of the watch, "Go and seek for the girl." So he went out, and Nehemiah returned home full of trouble, and despairing of life, for he had now reached the age of 14, and there was yet no hair on his side cheeks. So he wept and lamented, and shut himself up from his household, and ceased not to weep and lament, he and his mother, till the morning, when his father came in to him, and he said, "O my son, of a truth al-Hajjaj hath put a cheat upon the damsel, and hath taken her, but from hour to hour Allah giveth relief." However, grief redoubled on Nehemiah, so that he knew not what he said, nor knew he who came in to him, and he fell sick for 3 months. His charms were changed. His father despaired of him, and the physicians visited him and said, "There is no remedy for save the damsel." Now as the father was sitting one day, behold, he heard tell of a skilful Persian physician whom the folk gave out for perfect in medicine and astrology and geomancy. So al-Rabi'a sent for him, and seating him by his side, entreated him with honor, and said to him, "Look into my son's case." Thereupon quoth he to Nehemiah, "Give me thy hand." The young man gave him his hand, and he felt his pulse and his joints, and looked in his face. Then he laughed, and he turned to his father, and he said, "Thy son's sole ailment is one of the heart." He replied, "Thou sayest sooth, O sage, but apply thy skill to his state and case, and acquaint me with the whole thereof, and hide not from me of this condition." Quoth the Persian, "Of a truth, he is enamored of a slave girl, and this slave girl is either in Basra or Damascus, and there is no remedy for him but reunion with her." Said al-Rabi'a, "An thou bring them together, thou shalt live in all thy life in wealth and delight." Answered the Persian, "In good sooth, this be an easy matter, and soon brought about." So he turned to Nehemiah and said to him, "No hurt shall befall thee, so be of good cheer, and keep thine eyes cool and clear." Then quoth he to al-Rabi'a, "Bring me out 4,000 dinars of your money." So he gave them to him, and he added, "I wish to carry thy son with me to Damascus, and Almighty Allah willing, I will not return thence but with the damsel." Then he turned to the youth and asked, "What is thy name?" And he answered, "Nehemiah." Quoth the Persian, "O Nehemiah, sit up and be of good heart, for Allah will reunite thee with thy damsel." And when he sat up on the leech, continued, "Be of good cheer, for we set out for Damascus this very day. Put thy trust in the Lord, and eat and drink and be cheerful, so as to fortify thyself for the travel." Upon this, the Persian began making preparations for all things needed, such as presents and rarities, and he took of al-Rabi'a and all the sum of 10,000 dinars, together with horses and camels and beasts of burden and other requisites. Then Nehemiah farewelled his father and his mother, and journeyed with the physician to Aleppo. They could find no news of Naomi there, so they fared on to Damascus, where they abode 3 days, after which the Persian took a shop, and he adorned even the shelves with vessels of costly porcelain, with covers of silver, and with gildings and stuffs of price. Moreover, he set before himself vases and flagons of glass, full of all manner of ointments and syrups, and he surrounded them with cups of crystal, and placing astrolabes and geomantic tablet facing him, he donned a physician's habit and took his seat in the shop. Then he set Nehemiah standing before him, clad in a shirt and gown of silk, and girding his middle with a silken kerchief, gold embroidered, said to him, "O Nehemiah, henceforth thou art my son, so call me not but sire, and I will call thee not but son." And he replied, "I hear and I obey." Thereupon the people of Damascus flocked to the Persian's shop, that they might gaze on the youth's goodliness and the beauty of the shop and its contents, while the physician spoke to Nehemiah in Persian. And he answered him in the same tongue, for he knew the language after the wont of the sons of the nobles. So that Persian doctor soon became known among the townsfolk, and they began to acquaint him with their ailments, and he to prescribe them from remedies. Moreover, they brought him the water of the sick in vials, and he would test it and say, "He whose water this is suffering from such and such a disease." And the patient would declare, "Verily, this physician saith sooth." So he continued to do the occasions of the folk, and they flocked to him, till his fame spread throughout the city and into the houses of the great. Now, one day as he sat in his shop, behold, there came up an old woman riding on an ass, with a stuffed saddle of brocade embroidered with jewels, and stopped before the Persian's shop, drew rein, and beckoned him, saying, "Take my hand." He took her hand, and she alighted, and asked him, "Art thou the Persian physician from Iraq?" "Yes," answered he. And she said, "Know that I have a sick daughter." Then she brought out to him a vial from the Persian, and looked at it, and said to him, "O my mistress, tell me thy daughter's name, that I may calculate her horoscope, and learn the hour in which it will befit her to drink medicine." So she replied, O my brother, the Persian, her name is Naomi." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease my tale for the day, until it be morrow.